Let's talk about this major breaking news today. The White House reinforcing themselves, saying they're sticking by the president's 4 tweets almost 2 weeks ago, accusing President Obama of wiretapping Trump Tower in New York. You said today you do not believe President Trump's claims that Trump Tower was wiretapped on the orders of President Obama. If you don't believe the president on this, how can you trust him on other issues?
What I said was I have not seen any evidence that this occurred based upon the briefings that I've seen. I think that's what you probably heard from, I didn't hear what Devin Nunes and Adam Schiff said, but I think they basically said the same thing. So I didn't say one thing about the president's tweets. I said I have not seen any evidence that this has occurred. The Intelligence Committee has not seen evidence that this has occurred. They have an ongoing investigation on all things Russia. They have not completed that investigation. And so we'll see at the end of the day what that investigation turns up with respect to Russia, the campaign, and everything else. But heretofore, we have not seen any evidence. There's really nothing new here because I've been saying this for a few days.
But you've been briefed by the highest law enforcement and intelligence
that's the point
officials.
I'm making.
You're a member of that. You're one of the leaders of that so-called Gang of 8. You've heard the most sensitive classified information. You've raised this issue with all of them, and they have provided you say, with no evidence at all to back up what the president tweeted.
Yeah, that's what I just said. I said we have not seen any evidence that there was a wiretap or a FISA court order against Trump Tower or somebody in Trump Tower.
So should the president of the United States, do you believe, apologize to former President Obama and apologize to the American people for making such an assertion?
I'm going to leave it to him to make his decisions. I think he was responding to news reports and to some articles that were out there. Frankly, I didn't know about those articles until, I don't know, a handful of days ago. But apparently there was some articles buzzing around newspapers and internet and magazines suggesting this.
But
I think that's probably what he was
Mr.
responding
Speaker,
to.
before the president makes an accusation like this against his predecessor, instead of relying on news reports, he should speak with officials, speak with those officials who would know if there was a FISA warrant, who would know if there was any wiretap that was ordered against Trump Tower in New York City.
Well, I can't speak to that. All I can say is I've not seen the evidence because I have spoken with those people, and I don't know if he had. I don't think he had actually before then.
Well, he clearly hasn't spoken to anyone, and he got that information. I don't know if you heard Sean Spicer, the White House press secretary today, but he made it clear that the president was relying on news reports that were making these suggestions, and they're still not backing away from it, even though there's no evidence to back it up. And just to remind our viewers out there, let me read a couple of those tweets because they're pretty outrageous when you hear it. Terrible. Just found out that Obama had my wires tapped in Trump Tower just before the victory. Nothing found. This is McCarthyism. A few minutes later, is it legal for a sitting president to be wiretapping a race for president prior to an election turned down by a court order? A new low. A few minutes later, I'd bet a good lawyer could make a great case out of the fact that President Obama was tapping my phones in October just prior to election. And then a few minutes later, how low has President Obama gone to tap my phones during the very sacred election process? This is Nixon Watergate. Bad or sick guy. Those are pretty outrageous, and almost 2 weeks later, there's no evidence to back up any of that. So what's your bottom line message right now to the American people?
My bottom line is that I have seen no evidence that this occurred. That's been given to me from, let's just say, members of the Intelligence Committee, the people who would be in charge of such things. But the Intelligence Committee is still doing an investigation on everything dealing with Russia, all of their attempts to meddle in the campaign. Look, that's not a new story. We know Russia meddled in our election, tried to meddle in our election. The question is, let's go to the bottom of it. Let's make sure we can stop it from ever happening again. Then let's give our allies the tools they need to prevent Russia from doing so. So this investigation is still going through, and I think that's what we just have to wait and see. Let it run its course and find out everything we can possibly know about it to make sure that things that need to be fixed get fixed.
But bottom line also, the false statements like these 4 tweets, does it damage the president's credibility here in the United States and around the world?
Look, I think the president's going to be marked and judged by his record. I think he's going to be marked and judged by the results we achieve. I think the president's going to be marked and judged and viewed around the world by whether we rebuild our military, regrow our economy, repeal and replace this healthcare law that's so damaging healthcare in America. That's what I think is going to matter to him. I think it's going to matter. I meet with people from foreign countries all the time. I met with the Prime Minister of Ireland today. And I think what matters is results, policies. Do we achieve our goals? That's what's going to matter at the end of the day.
I'm going to talk about healthcare, but you still personally trust President Trump?
Yes.
All right, let's talk about health care right now. The health care bill to repeal and replace Obamacare. You dispute the Congressional Budget Office numbers about how many people would lose insurance. So what's your own estimate of how many Americans...
I don't dispute it. I think what was important was CBO put a qualifier on why and how they arrive at that estimate. And that's what I point to, because I think that's pretty informative. What CBO is basically saying is, if the government stops forcing people to buy something they don't want to buy, they're not going to buy it. If the government does not expand Medicaid in the future, that means less people will go on Medicaid. That's what they're saying effectively. So they're not saying that we're going to be taking away something from somebody next year or 2 years from now. It's that people, given the freedom of choice, will choose not to take this benefit, not to take this Obamacare. That's the point I'm trying to say, which is, let's look at what CBO said and the reasons for their insurance coverage estimates. I would note that these coverage estimates are hard to nail down. They were pretty off by a pretty good margin with respect to what they thought people would be taking Obamacare today. They thought more and more people would be in Obamacare today than are, and it's because people don't like Obamacare. And the point I'd make in all of this, Wolf, is the law is collapsing. 5 states have only one insurer left, one carrier left. Over 1,000 counties, 1 out of 3 counties in America, only one carrier left. They're leaving the market, and premiums are skyrocketing.
Well, let me just press you on that one point. If that expanded Medicaid program goes away, let's say in 2020, how many people would lose their health insurance then?
Well, we're giving the states the ability to control Medicaid, and they can tailor Medicaid to meet their own needs. I can't tell you how many governors we hear from, Democrats and Republicans, who say, let me run Medicaid in my state. Give me the flexibility. I know my state better than you do in Washington.
But do you have an estimate of how many people would lose their health insurance?
It is in the CBO estimate. I can't remember the breakdown of that number, but the CBO says if in the future states don't expand Medicaid, then that means fewer people won't go on Medicaid. By the way, Medicaid's broken. Medicaid doesn't work. More and more doctors don't even take Medicaid in the first place. What good is your coverage if you can't even get a doctor? So the point we're making is, let's give the states the ability to take this program over because they know better how to fix and help health care for people who are needy. I can tell you, in Wisconsin, we could do a far better job of customizing and fixing Medicaid if we get the ability to do so from the federal government. That's why we want to turn control of Medicaid back to the states and give our governors the ability and the tools and the flexibility to fix this problem once and for all, because the system's not working, the system is unsustainable, and more people aren't even getting good coverage. So we believe by giving governors more flexibility, by giving the states the ability to customize Medicaid to meet their needs of their specific populations that need Medicaid, and then replacing Obamacare with a patient-centered system. Risk pools, tax credits, health savings accounts, we think those are the secrets to success of a viable marketplace that people can get affordable health care coverage.
We went back to 2009 when Obamacare was being debated, and this is what you said. I'll put it up on the screen. Before Congress changes health care as the American people know it, we must know the likely consequences of the House Democrat legislation, including the number of people who would lose access to their current insurance, the number of jobs lost due to business taxes, the number of uninsured people who would obtain coverage, and the extent of the cannibalization of the employer coverage due to Medicaid expansion. So why is that information not necessary this time around, all those specifics you wanted in 2009?
Far from it. I'm not suggesting it. We're the ones who asked for the CBO report. We're the ones who said, CBO, please give us an analysis of this plan. And so that's why I say I take solace in the CBO plan. What the CBO plan says is, or what the CBO estimate says is, when our reforms kick in, premiums start going down. It's fiscally responsible. So that's why we're the ones who asked for the CBO to do what you just described. So back then, by the way, I would say the government estimators were way off on Obamacare. Remember what President Obama said? If you like your plan, you can keep it. Well, about 4.7 million people lost the plan that they liked. Remember he said it was going to lower premiums $2,500 on average? It didn't do that. It went up about $3,000 on average. So I would simply suggest, Wolf, that Obamacare is a series of broken promises. Those estimates were way off. We've asked the CBO to estimate our bill, and this is what we're basing our legislation on. And the good news is, with this good estimate we haven't even gotten to phase 2 and 3 of our 3-part program here, which is get the Secretary of Health and Human Services to open up market freedom. Let the states go back and offer plans in a new place so more plans can come into the market. We want more insurers in the market, not just one. And also the other bills that we want to pass. association health plans so small businesses can bulk buy insurance nationwide, let people shop across state lines, deal with medical liability reform so that we can lower the practice of defensive medicine. All those things dramatically lower the cost of health care. And so we're comforted by the fact that we're on the right path here. You mentioned, I heard you're in the preview you had. This is legislating. We're listening to our members and making the kinds of refinements, the kinds of additions and improvements to the bill that we think, as I say, gets the sweet spot, gets a bill that everybody likes, that everybody can support, because it's just really important we get this right. The reason it's really important we get this right is because Obamacare is collapsing. We can't just sit back and watch it happen. We have an obligation and a duty to do what we said we would do when we ran for office, and that is replace Obamacare with a much better system.
Because I just want to remind our viewers that CBO's estimate is that within a year, 12 million people would lose their health insurance. 24 million would lose it over the next decade, even if they're wrong.
Because people would choose not to take Obamacare, because they're not going to force them to take Obamacare.
But that's still millions of people losing health care.
Which will get access to tax credits, and they'll be able to buy what they want to buy. So you're making it look like there's nothing replacing Obamacare. That's just not the case, Wolf. What we're suggesting is let's have state-based high-risk pools with federal financing. Give straight coverage to people with catastrophic illnesses so they get good coverage and don't go poor if they get really sick. And then by covering those people in risk pools, everybody else who buys health insurance doesn't have to cover that. You dramatically lower the price of their insurance. It works because I know it because we did it in Wisconsin before Obamacare abolished our risk pool. Then give people refundable tax credits who don't get health care from their job. We want to once and for all end the discrimination in the tax code against people who don't get health care at work. Doing these things gives people access to choices. It gives them the wherewithal and the means to buy a health care plan of their choosing that they like. Obamacare doesn't do that. And CBO says, yeah, if you're not going to force people to buy Obamacare, a lot of people aren't going to buy Obamacare.
You know,
what we're saying is we're going to give you the freedom to buy what you want.
Your critics have said you're going way too fast right now. They said, and you have said repeatedly, you're not jamming this bill down people's throats, that you're going to go through regular order.
Yes.
But the bill has gone now through, 3 committees without any significant changes. 2 of those committee meetings were overnight. They were done before that CBO score. The Congressional Budget Office estimate. The House Budget Committee pushed through the bill much more quickly than expected this morning. And several of your own members, Republicans, have complained they haven't been able to make any changes. So how can you say this is not being jammed down members' throats?
First of all, it's not. It's a 4-committee process. The Budget Committee, actually, I used to chair the Budget Committee. The Budget Committee can't amend the bill. It doesn't have that ability. The 74 Budget Act does not allow amendments to be made at Budget Committee. Amendments can be made at Rules Committee. So that's just the process that we have. We didn't amend the bill in Ways and Means and Commerce because we were waiting for the score. It's very, very common for authorizing committees to go before the score arrives. The score arrives, then you go to Budget Committee, and then you can make amendments at the Rules Committee. So literally, this is the process we have here. It is the time-tested 1974 Budget Act process. We've been running on this for 7 years. We built this plan starting last January, a year ago January to June. We gave it to the country. We said this is what we think is a better way to replace health care. We ran for election in 2016 on this vision of repealing and replacing Obamacare. Then since the election, we've been working with our counterparts in the Senate, with the White House, to get this thing right. And now we're listening to our members, which is what the legislative process requires, to get it right, to find the sweet spot so that people have a bill that they can enjoy, that they can support. And the reason I'm excited about this is because I think this is an opportunity for us. It's an opportunity for us to fix a broken system that is failing, that is crashing, and to get at the goal of giving people access to affordable coverage. And we want to make sure we get it right. And that's why we didn't just take this to the floor. We didn't write this in Harry Reid's office on Christmas Eve like they did Obamacare and then jam it through. We're going through regular order. And by the way, after we're done with all the stuff I just said, then it goes over to the Senate and they start all over again. It goes to the Senate and they amend it and they do what they want to do to it. That's the legislative process.
But
that's what we're doing.
In the Senate, some of your Republican colleagues say they don't even think they can get 51 votes, let alone 60 they will eventually need to really get this enacted, that everything you're doing in the House now is really for naught.
Well, senators aren't helpless to what the House does. Here's the legislative process. I know you know this, but I'll explain it for your viewers. The House passes legislation. It sends it to the Senate. Then the Senate takes up that legislation. They'll have a bunch of amendments. They'll make changes that they want to. If they get support for changes, they'll make those changes. And then if there's a difference in the 2 bills, we go to a conference committee and we iron out those differences. That's the legislative process. So senators, if they want to make a change, they have a process in order to do that when the bill goes to them and they do go through their legislative process.
I know you got to run. One final question, Mr. Speaker, and you've been generous with your time. You said today the president has been helping to convince members of your Republican caucus to support your bill. But each day, seemingly more members are coming out and saying they're going to vote no. So can you name specific members that the president has turned from no to yes?
Oh, I'm not going to get into all that. Only it's not my bill, it's our bill. It's the American Health Care Act. This is a bill we wrote with the administration, with our friends in the Senate. So this is a collaborative effort between the House and the Senate and the White House. And the president is the one who's doing a lot of listening from our members, mediating differences, getting ideas, and we're working together to try and iron out these differences to make improvements. By the way, you know, there's one word to describe all of this. It's called legislating. This is what legislators do. This is our process. The reason you know about it, the reason it's all on TV is because it's open and transparent. People see what we're doing, these kinds of conversations. This is how bills are supposed to go into law. We call it regular order, and the president is playing a very effective role. He's been very productive, very effective, listening to people's concerns, bringing them into a table, talking at that table, and then now we're trying to see what we can do to accommodate people's concerns to get what I call the sweet spot, a bill that we can pass, because it's just important we get it right. If we sit back and just watch Obamacare crash, that does so much damage to so many people. We want to fix this problem by repealing a crashing system and replace it with one that works.